Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ha, Rekakwadash, Mamath. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and their elders. Double honors to my elder and apostle as well, Aharawan, Banyasha Allah, the Lions Den Camp, here in Jacksonville, Florida. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Wafium, and Bunyam children that believe in truth and sincerity. It's your brother, I thank y'all. Back to you another lesson in Yaharatazah is edifying. This is spiritual hydration. I only got 2 scriptures lined up. All right, in this regards to a video and an article I saw today and the activity over there in the Strait of Hormuz, all right, as Iran, Persia, all right, Persia has declared that it will not return back to the pre-war state, all right, meaning they control it, they're the trustee, and they can open and close as they please, all right, as our elder and our apostle here at the Lions Den Camp has been going into, all right, basically them showing their might, all right. Pretty much one of the scriptures that I do have lined up is Joel chapter 3, let the weak say that I'm strong, all right, because that's ultimately what they're doing. But we'll let this video play and we'll read a little bit on the article and we'll get straight into it, all right, because I believe this afternoon, all right, May 4th, 2026, Trump again has the blockade out there in the Persian Gulf and allegedly got drone activity, knocking down ships. They playing battleship right now. All right. But this video, from the New York Post earlier today, it says the Persians vows Strait of Hormuz will not return to pre-war state.
قبل از جنگ تحمیلی سوم بر نخواهد گشت گفت درآمدهای حاصل از عبور
قانونی که برای تنگ هرمز بنا به فرمایش رهبر معظم انقلاب تصویب خواهد شد این فقط برای داخل کشور جمهوری اسلامی.
And this goes into how our elder and our apostle is going into how this is like their last step, all right, and ultimately to issue that MOTB for their new world order, all right. What's in the way is the Islamic State, all right. So that's what a war and an attack on those people over there, because they have to get with the program, so to speak, all right. But they pretty much with the program, all right, as they're set up to be like the trustee, all right, a part of the military might, along with the BRICS nations like Russia, Saudi Arabia. Just last week you had the UAE, United Arab Emirates, all right, which is, considered of like the financiers of those type of people, like the Dubai, the real money-making Ishmaelites. They left the OPEC deal, all right, so they're willing to take and accept yuan and whatever else outside of the dollar, all right. So this is one of the last steps in the way. So they understand their place, all right. As the Lord has put in the king's heart to do his will, man, to fulfill his will, and it's ultimately lining up with prophecy.
ایران نیست و که ما حقوق بین الملل را، حقوقی که همسایگان داریم را باید در نظر بگیریم. اما آنچه که مسلم است، ما از تنگ هرمز نخواهیم گذشت و تنگ هرمز به وضعیت قبل از جنگ بر نخواهد گشت و مردم بزرگوار استان هرمزگان، نیروهای مسلح مستقر کار بزرگی را انجام دادند. دشمن مستعصل شد، تنگه‌ای که بسته شده بود ترامپ اعلام کرد باز میکنم، این غلط رو نتوانست بکنه. آمده الان موضوع محاصره را مطرح کرده. یقین بدانید این هم با شکست مواجه خواهد شد. قانونی که
blockade, this be certain this too will fail. Said the original plan fell, and now he's going about a blockade, and that too will fail. So it's like a bad kid that's not getting his way, and he's acting a fool over there, all right, in the waters, causing ruckus. Hey, nah, you're not coming through here. Ultimately he's gonna get wiped out of the way. And that's ultimately what the Lord is getting ready to do to him from the broader spectrum pertaining to prophecy, pertaining to him being the son of perdition, all right? Being Esau, Edom, the nation of Edom, the so-called, we know who they are.
خواهد شد اولا کشتی هایی که مربوط به رژیم صهیونیستی باشه به هیچ وجه حق عبور از تنگ هرمز
And no vessels of the you know, the small hat regime is they can forget about it basically. Just read the subtitles.
رو نداره. کشورهای متقاسم در رأس آن ایالات متحده امریکا هم حق عبور نخواهند. بقیه کشتی‌ها که بخوان عبور بکنن با اون قانونی که ما وضع می‌کنیم و اجازه‌ای که فرمانده معظم کل‌وگوا گرفته میشه و در اختیار نیروهای مسلح ما قرار میده، این تردد خواهد بود و ما برای اینکه سرویسی، خدماتی ایمنی، حفظ محیط زیست و راهنمایی غیره کشتی‌ها را انجام میدیم. این راه
We go kick you out of here and we're gonna dismiss your vessels and we're gonna charge you for cleaning them and steering them out of the sea. Roughly paraphrasing. You know, when you read the subtitles, man, whatever damage that gets done there, they're gonna be charged for it too.
یه جا دنیاست عوارض را از اونها دریافت میکنیم و در قضیه تقویت بنیه دفاعی همچنین برای معیشت مردم و تکمیل و همچنین بازسازی زیرساخت‌های کشور اینو به کار میگیریم.
مرور در تنگه هرمز برای تقویت نیروهای
It says Iran's supreme leader declares Persian Gulf will see a future without America as Trump weighs extended port blockade. It's from yesterday, and it says in the Persian Gulf, where oil tankers and naval patrols have long-shaped daily realities, Iran's supreme leader has issued a pointed challenge. MK, who stepped into the role after his father's death and earlier airstrikes, released a statement making Persian Gulf National Day. You follow events as he frames a coming era without Babylon the Great forces in these waters. The timing aligns when 47 Nero consideration, 45 and 47 Nero consideration of an extended blockade on Iran ports, part of efforts to pressure Tehran over the Strait of Hormuz and border security concerns. This declaration reflects years of friction, now sharpened by a fragile ceasefire that took hold after months of conflict. MK described the Persian Gulf entering a fresh phase free of outside interference. In the message read on state television, he emphasized that foreign powers arriving from distant shores bringing only disruption. You notice how he ties this to shared fates among Gulf nations, positioning Iran as ready to guide management of key waterways. The statement also reaffirmed Tehran's commitment to safeguarding its nuclear and missile programs as core assets, as in, i.e., we're going to enrich our uranium, so on and so forth, you know, whatever it takes to get, you know, let the weak say that they are strong, you know, they're going to turn their plowshares into pruning hooks and they're continuing to do so until that's said in appointed time. All right. It says such language echoes long-standing Iranian views of sovereignty, yet it lands aimed active Babylon the Great naval operations that have halted sea traffic to and from Iranian harbors since mid-April. Right. You know, they just over there running amok, you know, just causing confusion as they do everywhere else they go, you know. MK's words serve as both defiance and invitation to neighbors, suggesting stability could follow once external actors depart. You know, and basically warning his fellow neighbors that he might have to get down for their rights, for their sake, you know. Babylon the Great, it say the blockades hold on Iranian ports. Babylonian the Great Central Command enforces the measure against all vessels entering or leaving Iranian coastal areas. You track reports showing tankers turned away with the goal of squeezing economic activity until Tehran meets certain conditions on the strait and nuclear issues. Trump has signaled openness to keeping this in place longer if talks stall. The operation avoids blocking the full strait for third country shipping, focusing instead on Iran's own ports. Still, it has already rippled through supply chains. Iranian vessels have attempted workarounds, but the pressure remains steady as Washington weighs next step. So he's trying to put burden on other third world countries, where ultimately is simultaneously putting a burden on his own. All right, because this is a third world country, so let's go speed up the process of this downfall. All right, even though it's been said, all right, and our elders been going into it, and our apostle been going into it as well, as far as Trump could be trying to make them use their oil, basically make them expendable, spread them thin, because he still have the preserves from Venezuela. All right, but I doubt what he took from just Venezuela, one country, is any match of the plethora of oil and petrol holders over there in the Middle East. So I'm sure that they can go all day with this guy. So what's seeming to be smart in Esau's mind ain't smart at all. Just go bring him to the king of terrors. But he's going into them protecting their nuclear missile assets. But I get straight to the point and get the book of Joel, chapter 3, and I want to start at verse 9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords." And that's what they've done. All right, even post World War II, the nuclear arms race. All right, the race to get to the Shemayims, the moon. All right, that ultimately jumped it off. All right, as the scriptures say, the first and second woe has passed, and the third woe cometh quickly. All right, to where it went to the third war ultimately started off with a cold war. All right, to where now it's hot. All right. So they've been beating their plowshares, using their things for agriculture to make weapons of mass destruction, all right, or weapons of war, all right, ultimately because it's the Lord's will for him to denuclearize the earth, all right, to take the ambassador of the heathen completely away. The ambassador of the heathen pertaining to Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 1 being Esau, Edom, all right, the only heathen, the only Gentile that's written in the scripture to not have any mercy, all right, after 1,000 years to be completely abolished, to be completely wiped off the face of the earth, and that's all thus saith the Lord, So it says here in verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, right? Let the weak say, I am strong. And that's what they're saying now. The weak is saying that they're strong. All right. They speak confidently that Babylon the Great won't be in their waters. All right. Won't be a problem for them in the Strait of Hormuz. All right. It won't be a stain in their garment, so to speak. All right. Verse 11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be weakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, right? Yahweh Shaphat, all right, the valley of Kidron. All right, that's what these nations ultimately is gathering up to go fight. All right, and ultimately they're gonna fight against the Lord, man. Revelations 12 and 7. All right, the war in heaven. But there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about, right? That's where the Lord go put judgment on the heathen, all right, for touching the apple of the Lord's eye. What nation has not had a hand in, our captivity? Roughly paraphrasing. Verse 13, put ye in the sickle, right? The sickle is to cut the chaff, all right, from the corn, all right, the husk, all right. Put ye in the sickle, right? The grim reaper hold the sickle. For the harvest is right? The harvest is right, all right, pertaining to what? The wheat and the tares, the wicked and the righteous, man, the children of men and the children and the sons of the power, all right? They all in the midst, but that sickle, all right, the Lord and the angels is go do the reaping. It says, for the harvest is ripe, come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great, right? Their wickedness is great, man. Conspiring against the children of Israel ultimately, as they conspired against our big brother Yahweh Shai, all right? And ultimately they got to pay for it. They've been conspiring for hundreds, thousands of years, all right? Because the Lord has set them up to conspire against his people, all right? So he can bring them down to that low condition, that hell, all right? Because hell is a condition before it's a place, all right? And if it is a place, it's going to be here in the land of the north, all right? Babylon the Great, that great city. I want to line that up with Isaiah 14. And Yahweh says, this lesson was edifying. This is Isaiah 14, and I'll start at verse 9 to get the point. Salakia, 1 second. This is Isaiah. God. This is back in Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 9. Salakia. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, right? That low condition, is moved for thee. It's going to be brought to you, because that's ultimately what you desire. You didn't do anything righteous in your rulership, in your kingdom, in your heaven, all right? You did nothing righteous with your blessing, right, that the Lord gave you, all right, that the Lord gave, his people to give to you, as you're no longer, you're cast out, man. He gave Isaac, all right, Yahweh Shai to give to you, all right? Yahweh Shai, they set you up ultimately, being Esau, Edom, right? But it says here, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth, right? Even all the chief ones of the earth. Look how the dude over there in Iran, Persia, is talking, all right? It's the son of, he's grieving his father, right? His people. So these are the chief ones of the earth getting riled up against this devil. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, right? And you becoming a burden to where everybody is paying attention to what you're doing throughout the four corners of the earth. It was an article that was put in the group chat earlier last week on how Putin, end of last week, on how Putin insisted that it's not a good idea to continue on with the war with Iran. Speaking on Babylon the Great, and that's the chief. That's the chief of that BRICS alliance. All right, that alliance that the Lord has set up to come against the conglomerate of this dragon, this beast-like system. All right, with the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The NATO and the EU. The Lord has set up an adversary for you, because it's time for your end. All right, and that's spoken of in Ezekiel 38. But it says here, Isaiah 14:10, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Right. Art thou become like unto us? And that's what they're saying. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials, Salakia. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Right. You know, and that's what a worm come and feast on a dead thing. You're almost an unalive thing, spiritually and physically. Verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Right. It's speaking on the light, the so-called light bearer. All right. He's falling down from his heaven. All right. The scriptures speak on how he's falling like lightning, meaning quick. Right. Because this is his heaven. This is heavenly estate, being in his blessing, ruling in wickedness. All right. This is Isaiah 14:12 from the top again. It say, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did its weaken the nations, right? How are you cut down who once was the hammer of the earth, man? Right? But the hammer of the earth is broken, it's cut asunder. It's back in Isaiah chapter 14, Salaki, in verse 12. We read 12. This is verse 13. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend unto heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yahweh, right, of God. We spoke earlier in this spiritual hydration turned lesson, ultimately, on how, you know, it started with the nuclear arms race. You know, the German scientists splitting, you know, from World War II to Russia, UK, and America. You know, just starting that nuclear arms race. Him setting his satellites amongst the stars, claiming he went to the moon. You got Elon Musk out there in the first layer of the Shemaims with their satellites and things like that. Ultimately, that's how the Lord wanted you to do that. The Lord gives you this technology, as he gave you, you know, Isaiah 54:16, on how he created the smith to blow up the coals, the weaponsmith to ultimately split the atom and make the atomic bomb. That was presented in World War II. All right, post World War II, as you came in the back end. All right, and that's how you declared and established your power. All right, you became a spokesperson for NATO. All right, through Eisenhower. So that's him ascending into heaven, you know, in a sense, right? Trying to play God. And then they don't speak as if God exists. They don't speak spiritual. They speak fleshly, all right, because they're fleshly people. And they think that they're going to do it in the flesh. All right, that's why they think they can go into the space. All right, and they find out like what they turn into them jello. Or they can't even pass the Van Allen belt. All right, it's too much radiation. But this is back in Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 13. For thou hast said in thine heart, right? Their heart is your law of your mind. I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yahweh, right? Like you go do one better than what the Lord set up, his ordinances, right? What he made ministers unto him, which pertain to the sun, moon, and the stars, right? You know, Esau think he gonna do one up. He gonna do one better. He say, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. It'll line up with Habakkuk, I believe. 2 Thessalonians, Salaki. But it says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, right? I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, right? That low condition, to the sides of the pit, right? You know, hey, you go be sore. Hey, the mother of you is gonna be sore confounded. Speaking of Europe, that's ultimately what the pit will represent is Europe. You know, and hey, that's another point that our elder had made. You know, just past camp in regards to how Prince Charles, all right, because hey, when Sleepy Joe was in office, they were saying the same thing about Prince Charles, how he has dementia, but they use him as a pawn on the media, you know, where Esau tell his vision to show you, hey, as the world is a stage, man. All right, the elites put in a reminder in 47 in Neuro back. In other words, hey, we made you, all right, by the grace of, you know, Britain, England. This is Isaiah 14 and 16, and it's the point. And it says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Like, damn, we were scared of this shit the whole time. All we had to do is just figure out how to. But hey, the Lord do not stir nor move to the said measure be fulfilled. It don't work that way. It's like now, you throw a piece of a garment, one of your favorite garments from childhood or something like that. You had a long time away, and then now you have TikTok and all these new. We in the information age to where now you got TikTok and all these little new things going on to where you see little shorts and you like, dang, I wish I had that to try this now, because that might work to where I didn't have to throw it away. You know, but it wasn't time, you know, or it was time for you to throw it away, you know, or it was supposed to fall in the hands of someone else for them to have it in these times, for them to do it so it can be renewed, refreshed, right? Just a way to look at it. You know, that lines up with in Ezra's how the Lord says he does not stir no move to the set measure be fulfilled. You know, now it's looking like, damn, they could have been just enrich their nuclear enrichment or, you know, create the same thing. But the Lord gave that blessing to Esau, the sword, all right, to be able to split the atom. All right. How you know the Lord is in the midst? You know, it wasn't for the other nations to get it until they was supposed to get it from Esau. Esau sell everything. He sell the template how to end him, which is the ICBMs, you know. So you got a pack and you got rules about it throughout the four corners of the earth. So ultimately how you gained your power is ultimately how you're going to lose it. You know, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You know, that's the Lord perfection. And this verse 17, Isaiah 14:17, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the houses of his prisoners. Right. Right. They gonna sit there and think of that. And Iran is one of those countries, as they had the damn Jake, which we would consider him a 2/3, all right, Tupac, right, on a missile, which was crazy to me. Like, that's crazy. But they know who you are, all right. They know who we are, being the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, and those of the speckled bird, all right, who may look like the other nations due to the mixing and mingling, all right. Again, this is the last captivity. So think all the mixing and mingling through the past captivities all the way up to now. You definitely have Jake's Israelites who look completely like the other nations. All right. So you got to try the spirit by the spirit. And everybody's going to be measured by this measuring tool, which is the scriptures. But Yahweh Ratazah, this lesson was edifying, man. Let the weak say I'm strong. All right. They have vowed to hold it down as far as the Strait of Hormuz, being the Persians, Iran, and it's not going back to the state it was in post this war, all right, which shows you that, hey, the scourges are sent for amendment, man. It's not finna be drawn back pertaining to the Lord's judgments. All right, all the way up to the missiles. Shalom Habadah and DTA to the next one.